Thank you very much. Well, you think that oats are boring. Many people will be starting their tax-back journey for the year.
Marian, just walk out now. Don't listen to this fella. Marian Ryan from taxback.com.
Tax can be boring.
He's here to help us navigate the refund claiming process. But honestly, one of my groups was hopping about this the other day, going, are we entitled to claim all these things back? So there's lots of things that people don't claim back in this country. We're very bad at it.
Oh, we're desperate at it, really. There's about 300,000 of us every year that have refunds sitting there that we never claim back. And they expire after 4 years, it's gone. It's money waiting for us that we just don't claim it back. And as you said, there's a huge amount of things there that people can claim back on. The list is nearly endless.
Okay, well, give us the kind of the most common one that for a lot of people, because I would say a lot of people kind of go, oh, you know, my employer will deal with that. It's not something I have to get involved in. But what kind of things can people look out for that they can actually get money back into their pocket?
What's really going to be a big one this year is the mortgage interest relief. That it was introduced in the budget. It's just a once-off thing. But basically, in a nutshell, if you paid more mortgage interest in 2023 than you did in 2022, you can claim back 20% of that, and it's up to a refund of €1,250. So that's going to be a really big one for people. It's to try and capture people that were on variable or tracker mortgages.
Yeah. So if you're fixed, if you were fixed in 2022 and 2023, probably not for you, but for everybody else.
Probably not as beneficial for you. Like, you still might have paid a little bit more, but it's really for those people that's seen it go up 10 times.
So how do they do that?
Simple enough. You get your mortgage interest statements for both years. See what the difference is.
Okay.
Send it over to us there, 20% of it. As I said, it's capped at the 1,250.
Yeah.
So if you are at the higher end of it there, you might miss out on it, but that's a really big one.
And
So,
is this also...
Send it over to you. If you were to try and do it yourself.
Oh, absolutely. You can upload it onto the Revenue, onto their website.
Okay.
So
well
ROS, Revenue Online.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and the PAYE. Anytime
there, that's always there. So the mortgage interest relief, there was a lot of bells and whistles about that when it was announced in the budget. So that's one thing that people need to look at right now if you do have mortgage. But there are so many other things, as you said. So there's an employee tax credit.
Yeah, so we'll all automatically get our employee and our personal tax credits. When it comes to the likes of those tax credits, we don't need to do a thing on it there. It's automatically done. So they're all increased in the budget, which means that everyone's going to be paying a little bit less tax this year because they change all the rates and bands. But things like your medical expenses, that's something your employer is not going to know about. You get 20% back on all of them there. There's the rent tax credit that was introduced there a couple of years back. That's actually increased this year to €750 per person. But even for previous years, you can get €1,000 if you're a married couple, 500 if you're not. And that's for anyone paying rent to a private landlord.
Yeah.
Or what a lot of people don't realise as well is that if you're a parent of a child in college and you're paying rent for them, you could still claim the rent tax credit there.
Right.
So that's a lot of people don't realise that. So there's 400,000 people that we reckon are eligible for the credit, and the uptake's about 50% of that.
Wow.
Okay. And how do you do that? You have to show the rent that you paid for the years?
Yeah, so it'd be the basic information that would be on your tenancy agreement, basically, the name and address of the landlord. One thing that does trip up a few people is they do need to get the RTB registration number.
Okay.
So it's just a checks and balances that the Revenue have, that the landlord has to be registered with the RTB there. Yep. That can be a little bit tricky for people, but you can actually get it yourself directly from the RTB if you don't want to have a conversation with your landlord about that part.
But there are also there are landlords who aren't registered with the RTB, and therefore you will not get the credit, right?
That's the thing. Yeah. That's the problem for people.
What about medical expenses?
Yeah, so medical expenses is one of the... So we're all going to have it. It's 20% you can get back in it, and that's all your medical expenses, your doctor's visits, your prescription fees. Loads of people overlook prescription fees because they assume I can't get it back because I can't get on my medical insurance there. But one that's coming up a lot in the last couple of years is celiacs. So if you're a celiac, you can get 20% back on your gluten-free foods that you purchase. You can claim that as a medical expense. And that's also the same as well for if you were diabetic and you should buy sugar-free foods. So there's a huge cohort of things that come into...
So is that going out and getting your Dunn's shopping list and going through it and just identify it? Like, do you just, is the key to this just keep all your receipts?
Absolutely. It's key to everything with taxes. Pretty much every expense you have in life, there's going to be something taxable in the background there that could trigger a refund for you. So keep records of everything, because it's really hard to think next January, what did I do? What did I buy last January? The likes of Dunn's and SuperValu, they will actually give you an annual statement if you're using your club card, and it'll highlight what are the free foods. So that's really good. Those ones, yeah.
And just for an awful lot of people who are like that, listen, I lose receipts, they're all over the place. Is it just as good to snap a picture of the receipts and have that as a form of identification rather than have the paper receipt?
Absolutely. You don't need physical copies of answers. Take pictures as you go there. And the revenue's outlook on receipts is they're nice to have. They're not mandatory.
They're not mandatory.
Not mandatory. They do have a facility there. Now, they can randomly select anyone for an audit and come back and look for it. So for peace of mind, we'd always say gather them up, have them there, have them upload onto the receipt tracker or whatever you have them somewhere safe. So if the revenue do look for me, go, yeah, here they go.
Here they go.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, listen, if people do want to get in touch with you, taxback.com. Quickly, just people working from home. It's very popular at the moment. What can they do?
So you can get back 30%, you can claim 30% of your utility bills. That's your heating, your broadband, your electricity. It's a portion to the number of days you're working from home. In a nutshell, for the average worker, if you're working from home full time, you would probably expect a refund about 200, 250 euros, kind of minimum, depending on how much your expenses are in the year. So it's definitely one to include in there, build it all up.
Okay, so this is all these things. They're on Revenue Online. You can find it there. If, like me, you prefer someone else to do it for you, taxback.com is there as well, just to let you know, because I wouldn't be able to do it.
Marian,
And many
thank
others,
you
of course.
so much for
Thanks so much.
making that much more interesting than oats. I tell you what.
Sorry
love it.
about that
Taxes
intro
the way
now for
forward.
this fella here. Terrible. Now, coming up, we're going to be getting